Why, hello there, gamers. What's going on? It's me again. A person obsessed with Bioware games. So I'm editing the next day and I realized I have a lisp this whole dang video because I have my retainer in, so I'm sorry. I don't normally sound like that, but just ignore it, I guess. Quarantine. I don't have anything to do, so I decided to replay Dragon Age Inquisition for the first time since launch. That's like 6 years. I feel very old. And I played it out. I was like, wow, this is extraordinarily good. So now I have like this hole in my heart. It's this huge tear in the fade, if you will. Today, to fill in the void that has been left in my heart, we're gonna be ranking all the romances in Bioware games, basically. Not every one, because I haven't played all of them, because I'm really not that old, so I haven't been alive for Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights. Even though I have Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 on Switch, but I haven't played it yet, because I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And also, I found this handy-dandy tier list that already had all the Bioware romances just handily in there. And by all of them, I mean KOTOR, all the Mass Effects, all the Dragon Ages, and then also Jade Empire, which I own but have not finished, so I don't have any opinions on Jade Empire. So they'll be in here, but I'm not going to tier them because I don't know. So clearly, if you're watching this and you disagree with me, which many people will, just explain why you disagree. And I'm sorry if I offend you and your major waifu or husband is left out on this one, but you know, they can't all be S tier. And then I'm also going to give a disclaimer that it's actually been a long time since I played certain games on here, like Andromeda, and I didn't really care about them to begin with. A lot of the romances in Andromeda, I'm just like, I don't even remember their names, not gonna lie. I can't even remember them, that's probably not a good sign. But let's just go ahead and get into it. First Bioware game I ever played, Dragon Age Origins. I love that game, like with a fiery passion, and it's the reason why I'm a fan of Bioware in the first place, because Origin gave it away for free a long time ago, the same year that Inquisition came out. That's top tier marketing. When I played it, I was like, damn, this is the best game I've ever played in my life. Which I don't agree with now, but I still think it's a very good game. I gotta be straight up with you. Leliana is my best girl.
Silly boy, that was so clunky.
From Origins, her personality is just so stellar. I love the French, I really do. There's just something about that accent. But I'm going to say, in terms of actual like content throughout the series, even though she plays a major role in Inquisition, it's not the Leliana that you fell in love with, and I think that can be a little jarring to Leliana mancers. It's like, oh my gosh, I love my French wife who will like tell me stories all day about when she was like this crazy bard lady, but then in Inquisition her first line is like, I will go to the library, I do not tell stories. I'm like, oh my god. So I'm gonna give her a B. I'm gonna put her in B. She's above average. Jarring change from Origins to Inquisition is unfortunate. Alistair, he's actually my first ever Bioware romance ever, and I played as a female Kuzland the first time I played Origins, so I was like the queen. When the game was over, I was like, oh my god, I was the queen. I remember being like, really, I was like 13 or 14 when I played, so I was like, oh my god, I was the queen, that's crazy.
Oh yeah, say it to my face, bruv. If you mean it, say it to my face.
He suffers in the same way that Leliana suffers in terms of like interacting with him in Inquisition is kind of like, well, I guess it depends on what happened to him. I do think it's really interesting that he has such a diverse range of what can happen to him. You know, he can be a drunkard, he can be the king, he can be a warden, you could kill him straight up. I think his content is really cool. I think his personality is great. He's just got such a great voice.
Have I never licked a lamppost in winter?
Yes! Yeah!
I think just because of the fact that I get to become queen, his queen, A rank for Alistair. I forgot to mention that Leliana can become the divine, like straight up, and has to become celibate. So that probably puts a damper on the romance also in Inquisition. Morrigan, you have a baby with her, and that's something that is not true of most of these romances. Actually, I can't think of any, and it has major plot significance, and she has a whole DLC, and she's also just like straight up, like, their romance is so funny. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it because it's so funny how they interact. They're just playful and blah, 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 and then the actual love is like, oh no, I don't want to be in love. I'm gonna also give Morrigan A tier. I don't know if I can give her S tier because when I personally actually like Leliana and Alistair's personality more than Morrigan, but her content in Dragon Age, her significance is so unmatched, and I think it's very cool when a romance really gives like an impact to the series. Because then when you're dating somebody who ends up being like this major role, then you're like, huh, I did that. Then Zevran, ooh, I'm gonna get hate for this. I don't like him. I never liked him. I don't know, like he's like funny. I don't know. It's he gets shafted by Bioware pretty bad. In Dragon Age 2, he just straight up looks like a different person.
Ew.
This is just inhumane.
Ew.
Gross. And in Inquisition, he only gets a passing mention in the War Table missions. I don't know. I mean, I don't hate him. I don't really. I don't know. I think even just his lack of contact, I think he's slightly below average for what Bioware can achieve with Dragon Age and with the impact of their other Origin romances. I think he's just kind of a disappointment. I'm sorry if you like Zevran. I'm sorry. What's the point? If you have such other great options, why would you ever pick Zevran? Why? Is this racist against elves? I don't know. No, because I love other elves. He's just, sorry, Zevran. Okay, so let's move on to Dragon Age 2. Notoriously bad game. Just like, a lot of people did not like that game. I didn't hate it. I don't think I hate any game on this list. I think it's physically impossible for me to hate a Bioware game from before Andromeda. I don't even hate Andromeda. It's just like, but so I will say Dragon Age 2's romances all kind of take a hit for me because they didn't have time to give the characters defined sexualities. Is that bad? Like, I love when their sexuality is defined as part of their character. You know, like in Origins, Alistair and Morrigan are straight. Okay, pop off, be straight. Leliana and Zevran are bi. I'm like, okay, pop off, be bi. But in Dragon Age 2, Bioware literally like ran out of time to give their romances sexualities, and I think that that's just a funny thing to mention. Okay, we'll start with Isabella. I'm gonna just put her straight up in average. Is that messed up? I think her character arc is very cool, very interesting, but ultimately, if your romance can straight up walk out on you, it's like, what's the point? I hate when the romance walks out on you. That, like, I don't know. But she's so interesting and compelling. It's average. I legitimately just think it's average. Okay, Fenris. People are gonna hate me when I say I think he's average too. People love Fenris. I don't know. I feel like it's the same kind of people who like the Onceler or something. I don't know. They like his like dark, pretty boy. Like, ooh, I'm oppressed and I'm angry.
This is also a call-out post for people who like Kylo Ren. I bet you like Fenris too, huh?
I don't care. I didn't care about Fenris. I think this is really showing how much this is literally just up to my arbitrary opinion. But I think all the Dragon Age 2 romances really suffered in terms of content, Yeah, mostly in terms of content, I guess, and also in terms of series significance, because all of them in Inquisition they become null, basically. It's kind of sad, actually. But I'm also gonna give Fenris a C. Sorry. Anders, F. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. I don't care how much you love him. He's an F. He is the lowest of the low of Bioware romances, okay? Pretense here that I romanced Anders the first time because I didn't know better. And I had just come off of romancing Alistair. And I was like, pretty boy, I like blonde boys, blah! Or whatever 14-year-old me thought was attractive, right? So I was like, oh, Anders, And then he freaking commits an act of terrorism, okay? I don't care what you say. That's horrible. I'm not gonna kill him, but maybe I really should? Are you serious? Horrible. I don't condone terrorism. F. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm not sorry. He's a terrorist, straight up. And then that leaves Merrill. Sweet little Merrill. You know, Merrill conflicts me because she's my favorite, actually. You'll notice I have a type. Probably. Okay, but in terms of Bioware romances, Merrill is so sweet. I love Merrill, but also she is a blood mage and she's kind of like bad about it.
Oh, Merrill, hey, no. Hey, sweetie, you don't have to shed any blood over this, okay? It's really not that big of a deal. It's just a magic. Oh, no. Okay.
In terms of personality, much like Leliana, I would give her an S tier. But her blood magic stuff and putting everyone in danger all the time, I'm just like, ugh, Merrill, don't do that. Ugh. Obviously, it's not as bad as F tier Anders, but I'm gonna give her a B out of kindness because I love her.
I also just realized that they left out Sebastian from the DLC in Dragon Age 2. But honestly, I never played that DLC or really any DLC from any Dragon Age game besides Trespasser, which makes me a fake fan. But I'm just gonna say he's hot, and I like that he's celibate. I'm like, okay, show restraint, king. Like, pop off. It's not all about the money and the bitches. And so I give him a B, I think.
Okay, now Inquisition. A lot of great ones from Inquisition. A lot of really cool, amazing romances in Inquisition. I think they are all pretty amazing in their own way. But maybe that's just because I just played Inquisition, so I'm like, everything about Inquisition is good. Which also, I don't believe that. I think there's a lot of not good things, but the romances in general I thought were very strong. So I guess we'll start with Blackwall, who is actually my least favorite of all the Inquisition romances, because he's a liar. Ooh. He's a liar. He's a hoe. He's a liar. I'm gonna give him D. I do think his redemption arc is sweet, but his personality is rather dry. He's always just like, I live to serve you, my lady. I'm like, okay. Then what makes you different than everyone else around here? Also, he's a liar. And he's also not that cute, so. Okay. Dorian. My first S tier. I love him. God, I love him. I love him. And he's a great example of Bioware using sexuality in a positive way as part of like the character arc, you know, because it's like that's a huge part of him, and it's like a major conflict for him too, because of, you know, his whole family background into Winter and how they're all like, you need to produce an heir. He's like, fella, I don't want to. Just very sweet. He's a sweet lad, even to be a friend. Like I always make sure my Inquisitor is like his best friend because I love Dorian. Truly excellent being. Cassandra. Ugh. I love Cassandra too, but I can't just hand out S tiers. Here's what I'll say. Here's another fun thing about Bioware and assigning sexuality like properly. Is like Cassandra is so sweet to flirt with as a woman because she's like flattered. She's also like, wait a minute. Wait, no. It doesn't feel like an S tier to me, but I am left satisfied by it, except for the fact that she can become the divine, and then she like breaks up. Like Leliana, yeah, she becomes a divine, but she's also like, well, but you know, I'm still gonna like see the warden, you know. So what are you gonna do? But Cassandra straight up is like, well, I love you, but peace out. You know, I can't be the divine and your girlfriend, and that makes me sad. I'm like, cheat on me, cheat on. No, don't cheat on me. No, cheat on the maker for me. You know, that's what I want out of this, which is like not right and it conflicts with her, but that's what I want. So I'm gonna give Cassandra an A tier because she's great and she has a lot of good content and she's so integral to the story. But please don't break up with me. The Iron Bull. You know, gotta love Bull, right? He's great, but also it's like he could straight up kill you if you have him remain loyal to the Coon, and it makes sense why. Like, it's like sad, but if you encourage that choice, then that's what happens. And it's just like and it's an interesting one because it's like all about sex in the beginning, and then it turns into more, which is not normally actually how these romances go, except for Morgan. Morgan is like that too, but like it becomes more emotional if you want it to, and he's always like, oh, it's whatever you want, it's all about you. I'm like, Bull, just tell me what you want. It's not the most emotionally fulfilling of all these romances to me. And when it comes to Bioware games, I was like, this is supposed to be all emotional, you know? Is it? I can't physically, like, they're wet. So B. I'll give him a B because B for Bull. Sarah is another one that you either love or you hate. It's like, I guess Fenris is like that too, or Anders, or lots of these actually, but Sarah is definitely one that you love or you hate. I love her. A lot of people don't. I think her romance is so funny, personally. I don't know, just the concept of you are literally like a god figure. You're like Jesus Christ in the Dragon Age world as the Inquisitor, and then she's like, oh, you want to pull some pranks, love? Hey, bruv, let's pull some pranks. It's a horrible accent, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. That's the vibe. You just go around pulling pranks, but then you get to see like her emotional side, blah blah blah. It's all very sweet. I'm honestly thinking she's average. Like, I think there's so many interesting little bits about her, and she's so compelling, but ultimately her role in the Inquisition is negligible. So I don't know. She's got a lot of personality, but I mean, all of these characters have personality generally, except for Blackwall. It's just not enough. I don't know. There's not enough really substantial content for me. Pranks are fun, but I'm Jesus. So please, like, what? Cullen. Cullen. That's a baddie right there. He's so hot. Not gonna lie. I've never even romanced Cullen in any of my playthroughs, but I gotta acknowledge he's pretty great. He's sweet, but he's like tough. He's like the perfect mix of masculine and like, oh, I'm sensitive. Not like Fenris, who's like, I hate my inks. Cullen's like, I'm struggling with things. I'm willing to admit that to you, but also I'm like, I need to stay strong. You know, he's just an interesting character, and I think the idea of being able to romance one of the advisors, someone who's like so integral, is somewhat more alluring than romancing a standard companion, because it adds a degree of separation when you're traveling, but they're also like so integral to this Inquisition, you know, they're always there. It's a strange choice to let you romance an advisor, but I think it's some of the most compelling romances. There's only two, but I think they're both really compelling, and I think Cullen is A tier. I'm not gonna put him at S tier because S tier is just like so like, he's like A plus, but not S. There's just something, he's just like just a little too white bread for me, you know, just a little too white bread, and that's by a narrow margin. Okay, I see Lace Harding is on here. She's not really a romance, but she is You know what? Screw you. S tier for Lace Harding. Oh no, I'm just kidding. She's not even a full romance. I feel bad comparing her to the other full romances. But honestly, she's more emotionally fulfilling to me than anyone in Dragon Age 2, if we're being honest. So I'm gonna give her. You know, it's so hard because she has no content really. I mean, I guess you get to like hang out with her a little more and is it Jaws of Hackett? Is that the one? The DLC you hang out with her a little more? And you see her from time to time, and I don't know. I'm gonna give her a C because she is really so emotionally interesting, and just her interactions are so great, but she has no content comparative to other romances in Inquisition. Stuff in Inquisition. Okay, Josephine. This is the one right here. I love Josephine for so many reasons. She's my. I'm gonna say it like straight up say she's my favorite romance in Inquisition. And a lot of people are like, oh my god, but she doesn't even have a sex scene. I'm like, okay, well, this is another example of Bioware being smart with how they play out sexuality. Because not only does nobody ever talk about it, leaving it up to your imagination, which I think is smart, but it's also like so not important to her story, you know? It's about like more than that. This sounds so stupid. Talking about freaking Bioware romances alone in my room right now, but I think Josephine's romance, she's like a Disney princess, but she's also so integral to this Inquisition. You know, she's so capable in her job and her duty, and she's so professional about it and all this junk. She's just so cool. You know what? I don't think it's fair on this scale to put her at S tier, but I'm gonna do it anyway because this is my scale. This is my house.
She is very gorgeous to me!
And I've made concessions with other romances who I already thought maybe should be in other places, but Josephine is S tier. I don't care what you say. Also, her voice actress is really cool. Allegra Clark. She used to do like cosplay of Isabella from Dragon Age 2. It's so cool. Chef kiss on that romance Bioware. Give me more Josephines. It's not all about sex, or it could be. And then finally, I think I'm not forgetting anyone. I don't see anybody else. Solus. He is like the most divisive Bioware romance that has ever been, I think, because it's like he's sweet and he's lovely and he's knowledgeable and he's so wise. But he also freaking leaves. He's like the main antagonist of the game secretly the entire time. And I think, honestly, that's really cool. It's really, really cool. I think I've already said that when a romance is really significant and integral to the plot of the game overall, that just makes it cooler to me. Especially of that game. Like, Leliana becomes so important later on, but in actual Origins, you know, she's not integral at all. You can literally kill her and there's no problem. But Solus is like the whole point in the end of Inquisition, and I think he's gonna be the whole point of Dragon Age 4 as well, so I'm really excited to see what the outcome of that romance is. I think it's unfortunate that his romance is limited to a female elf. He has by far the most restrictive romance options, but it's also like so interesting to think about what the implications of this is. It's like, it's like the most important mortal is the Inquisitor, and now this is a fallen god and the Jesus figure of the Chantry. That is so interesting to me. But at the same time, I really hate it when your romance leaves you. I think if I can't have a happy ending with my romance at the end of a Bioware game, I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of this? This is escapism, darn it. This is for all you Solus Mancers who fell in love with an egg and then he left you, even though you're Jesus. I'm gonna put him. For the sheer power of Solus in terms of narrative weight and anticipating even more in the future, I'm giving it A tier because can you imagine you fall in love with this character? I didn't, but if you did and you're like, oh my god, because your Bioware romance is like your Bioware romance for that game. Like, imagine Solus is your romance, right? And you really care about all the content you can get with him, and then it turns out in the end, a trespasser, that all this stuff happened. You're just like, God, that must be so cool. Tell me about it if that happened to you. What it's like to romance an egg and find out he's a god. What an emotional journey we've been on. Mass Effect is so different from Dragon Age in so many ways, because in Dragon Age, your only options are basically humans or elves, and elves are just humans with pointy ears, if we're being honest, aesthetically. So it's like, the aesthetics are never really going to matter in Dragon Age, because they're all hot except for Blackwall. So it's like, that's not the issue. But in Mass Effect, aesthetics are an issue for some people, because you can romance full-on aliens, and also at the same time, I think you should romance the aliens. I'm gonna say straight up, I am predisposed to say that if you're romancing a human in Mass Effect, it's like, what are you, racist? Xenophobic? Like, F you, man. You're playing a game where you're exploring the galaxy and you decide to romance a human? You're a fool. So we'll start with the humans, because they're automatically the worst choice. Actually, what we're gonna start with is, because Andromeda is included in this, I'm gonna knock out those Andromeda fools right off the bat, because I honestly do not remember some of their names, or like some about them. I remember enough about most of them. The one I remember the least about for sure is like, who is this? Who is this Angard woman? I feel like I remember her and her like complete lack of content, and she was like on the Angaran homeworld. Yeah, F tier. If I can't even remember your name or your purpose at this point, and I'm like, I'm gonna say I'm about as big of a Bioware fan as you can be, like rationally, and still be sane. And if I can't even identify your name as a major romance choice, it means you are not a major romance choice. So I'm sorry. If you romanced her, I'm sorry. Whoever she is. I also don't remember this reporter's name, but I do remember she's a reporter, and I do remember how you can have a romance with her. So for the fact that I can simply remember her content, I'll put her in the D rank. I remember she's a reporter, and I remember her being interesting to talk to, at least. I cannot for the life of me remember her name, and I don't want to look it up, because it's disingenuous for me to sit there and be like, oh, I remember, blah, 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 because I don't. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This guy's name is Reyes. This lovely man right here. I remember a lot of people really liked his romance and really engaged with it and thought his personality was great. But once again, for a lack of content, if you're shafted on the content by Bioware, I'm sorry, but I agree. You have been shafted, and I will not reward you for this. If Bioware couldn't even think you were important, how could I? I'm probably a jerk for not remembering this guy, but I remember him so clearly, his romance so clearly. I'm putting him in average for sure, because I remember a major part of it. He was on the ship, I know that for sure. So a major part of it was like wanting to have children with him or something. I don't remember anything. I'm sorry, Andromeda. This makes me look like I have no credit as a source of knowledge for any of this. But I swear I know a lot about Bioware romances, but I cannot remember these people. That's why I'm knocking them out first. Subi. I remember Subi because I loved her Irish accent, because it was the voice actress that did Kate in Fallout 4. Love that voice. I also remember her romance being cringe as heck. She was like the only lesbian, I think, straight up lesbian in this game. And she worked on the front deck. See, I do remember things that are significant. And I remember her romance being cringe. Well, I remember people saying her romance was cringe. I didn't think it was, personally. But I guess I'll put her at C, because I'm sympathetic. I didn't think it was that bad, but it also wasn't very substantial at all. And also her appearance is so default, okay? Have you noticed that? Like, look up her appearance. Everybody usually has defining features of some sort, but her appearance is like straight up default. Like they went into the character creator and they made it like a default face. So actually, for that I'm sorry, Suvi, I really do love your voice, but your face is just not interesting. Jal. I romance Jal. Because I don't romance humans in Mass Effect games, as previously stated. I think it's a waste of time. And Jal was really sweet. Actually, I think I romanced Jal because he was the best choice in Andromeda, in my opinion. Because he's like a sweetheart. And he's like a taste of the uniqueness that Andromeda was trying to have with this one unique race. The stuff, like, you got to meet his parents. It's cute. I'm gonna put him above average because he's a sweetie pie. Liam. He's like the dashing type, you know, like, ooh. Liam, nah. I hate humans. I hate humans in Mass Effect. I hate them. Him and Cora Harper, to me, are both like, they have interesting bits about them and they have interesting aspects of their romances, but they're so unremarkable in the grand scheme of Mass Effect. So I think we're running out. Are we running out of room on this list? Let's see. No, it's okay. So we're gonna put them both on the below average. Don't hate me. Don't hate me yet. We still have like the good parts of Mass Effect to come. Okay, I think that's, PB. How could I forget? And Vetra. We have PB and Vetra. PB, I hate it. I'm not gonna lie, because okay. I have this syndrome. I'll talk about Liara later. But Liara and Asari, to me, are god tier. And I know it's like counterintuitive to make fun of people for romancing humans and then to romance the most human looking of the races. But hear me out. They're so different ideologically from humans. You know, it's all about like the evolution of their species through breeding with other animals who aren't of their own DNA. I think it's really it's like the opposite of humankind, really, because we're very regressive in a way, you know, very xenophobic, whereas the Asari, their entire culture is based on spreading out. And this really has nothing to do with PB. Other than that, I feel like PB is like not at all Asari. I think Asari have a certain class to them, have a certain elegance, a certain wisdom. And PB is just kind of like none of that. I never really liked her personality. Her appearance is like whatever. I don't really care. I don't really care about PB. That's just straight up. I don't care. I don't want to give her an F. Okay, I'll put her D. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I am sorry. Okay, whatever. Vetra, I think, is the last one from Andromeda. And she was a sweetie. I loved her attempt at cooking a human steak. I think she's a good representation of Turians, you know? She feels like Turians have always felt the most like humans out of all the other races. And that's just, you can agree with me or not, but I've always felt like personality-wise, they're the most like humans. But physically they're the least like humans. So I've always thought that was an interesting dichotomy, and I think like Vetra was a good choice. But also I don't really remember anything except for that steak. I'm putting her at average. Truly lovely, but fleetingly lovely. And as far as I can remember, insignificant to the greater plot of Andromeda, even though the greater plot of Andromeda, who cares? Sorry, Bioware. I'm sorry, Bioware. I hate making fun of Bioware because I love their games, but also, like, what are you doing? Anyway, so now we're moving back to the original Mass Effect trilogy. Okay, let's start with Mass Effect 1. Ashley Williams. F2. Straight up, she's so racist. I know she gets better. in Mass Effect 3. You don't have to say anything. I know she opens her mind and she evolves, and it's important to acknowledge that. But not only is she racist, but in Mass Effect 2, you get no content with her. And in Mass Effect 3, she could be dead. And even if she's not dead, you get, like, no content with her. Other than, you get to meet her at the hospital. I don't care. I Honestly, I'm feeling like I want to put Kaden in F tier too, because I feel like Ashley and Kaden are just, why Bioware? Why would you make, like, I feel like Bioware did shaft them in that they both just straight up are like, F you, Shepard, and Mass Effect 2, and then that's de-incentivizing the player from continuing a romance with them straight through the trilogy, encouraging you to be like, okay, F you too, and just go romance somebody else. But then they come back and Mass Effect 3 is a full romance. I'm like, well, did you want me to continue, like, be loyal to them or not? Bioware. I don't know, but Ashley in particular, her xenophobia in the first game makes me think that if you do romance her, you're just like straight up racist. So I can't condone that, so she does get an F tier from me. Because there's not a lot of good and a whole lot of ouch. Kaden, I'm not gonna give him F tier, but he is such a bland man. He's so bland. He's like the most buttered toast. Not even buttered. He's like a raw piece of sourdough in terms of the greater atmosphere of Bioware romances. And also he gets that same sad shaft from Bioware where it's like, they're like, oh, you romance him in the first game and you want to romance him in the third game? Well, in the second game, you get nothing. Nothing. And also they retcon his whole ass sexuality. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put him in F tier. I'm sorry. I just think there's so much wrong with that. Like, this is all Bioware's fault. Everything here is Bioware's fault, okay? It's nobody else's fault. But they were like, wait, we decided, never mind, we were wrong, he does like men. But in Mass Effect 1, we were too unwilling to accept that, so now we're gonna have it happen. It's like, well, it's already too late now. By the time you hit Mass Effect 3, you got somebody else, probably. Like, why would I ever leave my current romance, any of the romance, for Kaden Alenko? Here's another F tier. Jacob. He cheats on you. He straight up cheats on you. What? That's messed up, Bioware. How are you gonna how are you gonna cheat on Commander Shepard? The audacity of cheating on the galaxy's biggest hero is just so, it's so profoundly stupid. He's F tier. He is hot. I will give him that. His abs are just chef kiss. Oh, I don't want to chef kiss him though because his romance is so bad. Kelly Chambers. She's very minor. So her content is just not substantial enough for anything.
She do be giving lap dances though, and that's kind of like high-key cool, so thank you, Bioware.
But I do think you have a sweet romance with her while you last, but it's more of like a dalliance, really. This is like another case of lace harding where it's like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet, you get to cuddle, and she's so sweet, but it's just not enough content, so I will be putting her in C. You know who I just realized is missing from this chart? Whoever made this chart is, Samantha Trainer. They didn't put Samantha Trainer, or I guess you could say Diana Allers, but I mean, if they put Lace Harding and not Diana Allers, it's like, what? But they didn't put Samantha Trainer. That's so sad. Okay, well, just in spirit, I'm gonna put Samantha, honestly, at B, because she's so funny. She's so funny, and her content, especially in Citadel, when she pulls out that toothbrush, I'm like, bro. In the shower, I'm like, bro. She is unfortunately only there in Mass Effect 3, so her content is obviously a lot shorter, but I think they really did try their best to compensate that as much as they could, you know, with time allotted. I really didn't like her personality, so she would be B rank right now if she were here. Steve Cortez is also like such a sweetheart. A little too sob story for me though. Ooh. I'm gonna put him at C rank because he is a sweetie. Love him. But he has a certain lack of content, and most of his content is him crying about his dead husband. So I'm like, ooh, God, stop talking about him. Jeez. Like, I know that's selfish, right? But it's the truth. I don't know what you want from me. Now we're getting into, like, the big heavy hitters of the Mass Effect romance. Ooh. things hard for me because I said that I don't like when your romance ends in something that is not a happily ever after. Like, I'm like, ugh, let me escape. Especially with Shepard, especially with Mass Effect 3, because I'm like, after all I've done, do not make my life harder right now. Please. That's why I hate Jacob. But with Thane, it's like so different because it's not anyone's fault that it ends early, and it's so sad. It also doesn't like hinder you from pursuing another romance. It's just like you have a certain amount of time together and you really enjoy it to the fullest, but then it's gone, and that's so sad. But I don't know, I think, you know, just for the emotional gravity of it, I'm giving him a B rank. He would tier higher if he didn't die. if he wasn't dead, he would probably be an A rank, because he really is just so lovely. I love you, Thane. But now you're dead. I mean, imagine the possibility of you and him and his son all having a happy little family, but now he's dead, and it's like, okay. Jack is crazy. She's just crazy, but she's like a fun kind of crazy. And then she becomes like less crazy. She becomes like a mom. I don't know. It's just, I really do like her story. Honestly, I think in Mass Effect 2, she's like a little much. I'm like, okay, let's chill out a little. And then she does chill out. I'm like, oh my god, Jack! That's crazy. But she also has a lack of content that seems to be an unfortunate habit of some of the romances from Mass Effect 2. That they couldn't like fit in, have more content, you know, in Mass Effect 3. But her progression is really good. I'm also going to give her a B tier because she's just, her progression I think is really fun. And I think if you're the kind of person who's attracted to that kind of crazy off the wall personality, she's a fun one. I mean, she's got a lot of damage, but it's fun. We like that here. Not too much, just the right sprinkle of damage. Ooh. Miranda. A lot of people think she's a bitch. I didn't think that. Does that mean I'm a bitch? I don't know. She's so interesting to me in so many ways. Her backstory is so compelling because it's like she's straight up genetically perfect. And the person they chose to literally represent genetic perfection is Yvonne Strahovski from Chuck. And that's so good. And they just took her face and voice and not her butt, and it's so funny. Okay, but that's external. I do think her romance is really interesting because as you have this journey with Cerberus, she's having it too the whole time. Because, you know, you meet her and she's like, Cerberus. You know, and then eventually she, along with you, can realize the error of Cerberus and break away from that. And she does get less content in 3, like Jack, but she's also got some great scenes in the Citadel DLC. I don't know. She was clearly the default romance for Mass Effect 2, so I think they tried to make up for that with her lack of content in 3, but it was interesting. I'm also gonna give her a B rank though. This is all completely arbitrary, and I guess the thing is that I find it hard to justify an A or an S rank. Especially with somebody I didn't romance, but whatever, I don't care anymore. How many have we done? We're almost there. Almost. Tali. She's so close to an S rank, but her karaoke singing is so bad. It's so sweet though, but it's so bad. She's just such a lovable character. No, she's an S rank. Who am I kidding? She's an S rank. Jeez, I love Tali. She is so... There's so many interesting things about her romance. The fact that you and her just start off with this little crush. You know, most of these romances, you're just like, hey, you know, flirting back and forth. But she's like, oh, I have a crush on the commander. And all this stuff. It's so cute. And then, like, you're together. But then it's, like, awkward because she's like, oh my god, if I touch you, I'll die. So she has a great progression where she becomes a leader, right, for her people. because of your actions helping her as part of her loyalty mission, like that's great follow through, you know? And then even if she becomes the leader, right, one of the admirals, she could still die if you don't make the right choice. It's like there's so many high stakes, but if you make all the right choices, she's just so lovely. I love you, Tali. Garrus, he's another great one. Don't hate me though, I'm not putting him at S tier, I'm putting him at A tier. Simply because it's less cute to me. I don't know, his romance is very also kind of dry, like kind of like Miranda. I think it's just because of the nature of his voice. But he just shows less excitement than I want from him. I want you to be more giddy, Garrus. But he can't, he tries to play it cool. You know, like, no. Chuckle, Garrus, chuckle for me. An excellent piece of writing. Just not my personal favorite, you know. But if you put him on S tier, I would totally understand, you know. Also, he's not as hot. And then that's not fair because it's like, you can't even see what Tali looks like except for that freaking Photoshop stock image, but Tali hits different. Clearly I've got a thing for sweet girl Bioware romances. And then that brings me to the final and most important. All of the Mass Effect romances, in my opinion, is Liara. Now hear me out, because you could say many things about her. You could be like, oh my god, Liara is so dry. She's got like no personality, blah blah blah. She's just like a virgin fantasy for Shepard to conquer in the first game, blah, blah, blah. And there's all these things about her that are like not great and like just showing Bioware's age in a certain way. But if you romance Liara, I gotta say, it's otherworldly. It's like a fine wine, because she starts out, you know, young and naive, which is like problematic, but she gets a whole dang DLC. I think really the biggest thing about Liara is pure content. Like, Bioware designed Liara to be the default romance, and I can make a whole video just talking about this argument, but I legit think she was meant to be the romance, because her romance complements everything in the trilogy. If you just romance her the whole trilogy, it's like you were meant to do that. It's like Bioware designed that. Like, I know I said Miranda was the default for Mass Effect 2, but I think she's like the default dalliance, unfortunately, that Bioware designed, because I think their vision for the trilogy was that Liara was the romance, and they affirmed this by making a whole DLC where it's like, oh, Miranda was just a bad, or whoever from Mass Effect 2 is just a bad, Liara, I'm with you, you know. They make a whole DLC about this, so you can roll into Mass Effect 3 and she is always there, because she is the default romance, and I do believe that romancing her just is the perfect enhancement. But yeah, she becomes like, she gets kind of like a Leliana thing, where she's like, by the time you get to Mass Effect 3, she's like hardened, she's a Shadowbreaker, and she'll kill, she's ruthless, blah, but she's still like, will do anything for Shepard and loves Shepard so much. It's just, okay. People will kill me, I'm sure, for thinking Liara is S tier and Garrus is below that, but I'm gonna do it. I'm a martyr, okay? I'm a martyr. I'm gonna say that if you romance Liara straight through the trilogy, that is how Bioware envisioned you to play Mass Effect, and that's how I did it multiple times. And I really do think my experience was enhanced for the whole trilogy. That's all I'm gonna say. Fight me all you want, I'm right. Okay, so all we have left now are the romances from Jade Empire and the ones from KOTOR. I have not played Jade Empire all the way through. I know I'm a big fan. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. But boy, have I played KOTOR. I love that game to pieces. I think playing that game, I played it after I played Mass Effect and Dragon Age, so it really felt like playing it after, you know, later games. It felt like Mass Effect's grandpappy. It felt like the same exact structure as Mass Effect 1, except slightly worse. But the story was so compelling to me. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Listen, okay, let's just make this quick and easy. for anybody who hasn't played it. Bastila Shan is an S tier romance. Just straight up. She is so integral to the plot of KOTOR 1 that if you do not romance her, you are not going to have the same experience. Much like Liara. So clearly I'm all for default romances, which seems like a cheat to other romances, but I really do think that if you romance Bastila Shan, it's going to be a better experience in every way than if you don't. So, S tier Bastila. And we love Jennifer Hale in this house. We love Female Shepherd. We love Bastila Shan. Juhani and Karth. Karth has like a Cortez kind of thing going where he's constantly talking about his dead wife, and then it turns out like, this is spoilers, it's a major spoiler. It turns out it's like, oh, you killed her. Oh no. Oh, oof, that's cringe, bro. Like, he's hot, I guess, for KOTOR. I don't know. Karth, he's the same voice as Kaden. Maybe that's why, because I don't care about Kaden. I don't think he's F tier. I think he's interesting in his own way, and enriches the experience of KOTOR 1 in his own way if you're playing as a female. You can't even see him on the chart. I'm gonna put him at D. In terms of greater Bioware romance, it's pretty below average, unfortunately. Juhani suffers in the same way Lace Harding does, because she's like such an interesting and cool character. She's Bioware's, like, I'm not gonna say first lesbian because I don't know what happened in Baldur's Gate Neverwinter Nights, but she's the only gay character in KOTOR, which is already like revolutionary. Even though it's clear that Bioware had this thing where they were like afraid to make men gay, but they were like so happy to make women gay. They were like, oh my god, the nerds are gonna love this. But anyway, despite that weird thought, Juhani is really interesting because she begins as a Sith, then she like joins the light side, blah blah blah, but she lacks content. Give her the same, and she keeps getting cut off, the same rank as some of my other content lacking but emotionally compelling characters, and we're gonna forget about Jade Empire, and there you go. That's our tier list. You can agree, you can disagree, I don't care either way. This is all arbitrary, even though I feel like most of these I really do justify mostly based off of content, how remarkable they are, how significant they are, because I do think that plays a major role. Like, if you sit there and really decide, I'm gonna romance Lace Harding as my only romance in Inquisition, well, okay, that's great. I'm glad you're like sticking to your guns and you're doing what you think is right, but also you are missing the heck out because there's so many other compelling romances in Inquisition, you know? Same thing with Juhani, same thing with like several other like romances throughout these series. It's just like, if your romance of choice does not have content, it feels almost like a waste. And that's sad on the emotional aspect, because you may like connect with certain romances more emotionally, but then Bioware's like, who to F you for doing that? So I think that's just, it's an important part to deciding what romance is right for you, or what romances are good, I guess. That's what makes this all hard. I apologize for rambling, but I'm very passionate about Bioware romances. It's rather pathetic. Here we go! Look! You see all of our handy-dandy romances. They're so cute. Who's your favorite romance? Who's your least favorite romance? Which decision of all of them that I have made here today would you like to kill me for? Because I'm sure there's at least one or two, or maybe many more that you strongly disagree with. But that's the fun of it, right? Imagine what other company can make characters, so many characters too, this is a huge list, that are so compelling that people are like passionately for or against them. You know, I like to think that I'm not the kind of person who sits there and is like, if you don't ship Inquisitor and Josephine together, then you're going to hell and you're playing the games wrong. No, I like to think about it a little bit more objectively, but then saying that, I do think Josephine is best girl. So thank you for watching, and go replay Dragon Age Inquisition. That game is so freaking good, dude. It's so good.